Disney and Marvel finally released the trailer for Avengers Doomsday, the big crossover event that they have been teasing for years now. The question is it enough to put fans back in seats for the MCU? Let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Jacob Berry, and this is the StudioJake vidcast.
Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side.
Just as a reminder, be sure to like this video, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment on what you think, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube Mobile, hype this video because I'm told it does something really good for the channel and I would appreciate it. Alright, so I can't react to the trailer in small screen like a lot of reaction trailers do. For some reason my channel always gets targeted. I used to do that a lot back in the early days, but for whatever reason YouTube and the powers that be decided, oh, we don't like it when Jacob does that. So as a result, I'm just going to tell you about the trailer, and it is actually a pretty good trailer. I'm going to be honest, I thought it was really well made. So it opens in sort of a somber, ominous atmosphere, and we hear Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom say, "Something is coming. Something we may not be able to deter. Before this day is done, we shall be faced with an unthinkable decision." And then we hear Thor do a voiceover, but before I get into that, we also see like a big collage of different images from across the movie universes. We see the Xavier Institute for Gifted Youngsters is damaged and abandoned. Professor X, played by Patrick Stewart once again, is looking up in the sky and he sees like this ominous bright light. We see different hero team-ups. We see the Avengers, the new Avengers, with Yelena Belova, who is Black Widow's sister, have a couple of scenes. We see the Fantastic Four, we see the Wakandans, we see Namor, and the X-Men, primarily Cyclops, played once again by James Marsden. And as this is playing, we see Thor, played again by Chris Hemsworth, deliver a monologue where he says, "I've fought with many warriors in my time. They are far stronger than all of us put together. They died facing enemies and threats that scared me far less than this one. We're going to need a miracle." And then he tells everyone, hey, we should come together as brothers and sisters to face off. And we're assuming the threat is Dr. Doom. And then the trailer goes into another collage moment where we see the Fantastic Four meet with the Thunderbolts / New Avengers. The Wakandans meet with the Fantastic Four also. We see the X-Men in the Baxter Building. We see Shang-Chi fight Gambit, who is played by Channing Tatum, like he is in Deadpool. We see Mystique, who's played by Rebecca Romijn, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, as she fights Yelena. And then in the pivotal moment, what some are calling the centerpiece scene, is we see Thor leap at Dr. Doom with Stormbreaker, his axe, but then Doom stops it with just fingers like this. And that is how we get a sense of his strength. But what is really bringing people together is we see Steve Rogers return, where he being Thor, hears Steve Rogers say, "Hey pal," and then Thor goes, "It's not possible." But then Steve summons Mjolnir, and proving his worthiness in that he is Captain America, and then it comes up Avengers Doomsday with the countdown clock. There are a few other moments, like we see Dr. Doom commanding Sentinels, we see Loki in his TVA attire and whatnot. It's definitely hitting all the right notes. And I'm going to be honest, this trailer actually has me pumped. This was a really well-made trailer. And I have been with the MCU since the very beginning, ever since Iron Man, all the way down to Avengers Endgame and even Spider-Man Far From Home. And I defend all the films in between there, even Thor Dark World to some degree, which is considered the worst of the Infinity Saga, which captures the first 3 phases of the MCU. However, I will admit a lot, or I should say most, of Phase 4 did let me down. I was not happy with the direction the MCU went. They focused way too much on television, and some of them I even thought were okay. Like WandaVision had a really great first few episodes, but then in my opinion it fell apart in the finale. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, again, I was really excited for that one, and I wasn't like most people who were like Sam shouldn't get the shield, I was fine because Falcon has always been a longtime superhero partner of Captain America. I would have preferred Bucky, but then they just really mishandled it and made it like this whole thing where Sam and Bucky are standing up for a woman and her gang, the Flag Smashers, who have literally ended the lives of innocent civilians, not military targets, not androids. They've literally taken out civilians, some in a hospital. But Sam is like, we should not label them. No, we absolutely should. They're villains, and she deserved to be taken out. And also, we see Sam and Bucky be massive hypocrites toward John Walker, who is chosen to be Captain America when both of them pass on the mantle. Where after he takes out one of the Flag Smashers, who helped murder his friend, by the way, his best friend, we see Sam and Bucky take the shield from him, but then they weren't really upset when Sharon Carter, Agent 13, took out some Flag Smashers. They weren't like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. They're like, oh yeah, way to go. So I guess it's okay when a girl boss does it, but not with John Walker. So all that, and then also the mediocrity of the movies, where Black Widow and Shang-Chi felt more like Disney movies than they actually felt like MCU movies, and some of them were so far removed with what was going on, it just didn't make sense. And of course, we have the box office bombs of the Eternals, the Marvels, and so on and so forth. It just was one disaster after another, that even films that weren't terrible, like, dare I say, Thunderbolts or Fantastic Four: The First Steps, didn't do well at the box office. They had completely lost the trust of the MCU. Even big names like Doctor Strange couldn't bring people back for a sequel. Spider-Man No Way Home was the only one. And no, I'm not buying into the whole detail of, oh, Spider-Man No Way Home gets less and less watchable as you rewatch it. That's not true. Don't believe those people. They're just after clicks. Back to Avengers Doomsday. This trailer hit all the right notes it needed to hit. It let a legacy character narrate and lead the trailer. It showed some really cool scenes. It relied a lot on nostalgia bait. It even did a decent job of bringing in the new characters. Now, I do have two concerns about it. One, there's too many characters, and most of them are characters that have not been captured by the public's imagination, right? So, Namor, for some reason, which I think it's incredibly bigoted of Disney to make him Hispanic, because he's based on a Greek mythology, not a South American one, but also because why is the Hispanic culture at odds with the African culture? I find that incredibly bigoted and stereotypical, whatever the case may be. We see him, but we're not really captured by him. And while there are some fans of the Black Panther, I just think the Wakandans as a whole haven't been really bought by the masses, right? So Shuri has. I actually really like Shuri. I think she's a good character. I don't think she should have been Black Panther, but if they were to do that instead of recasting, I would have picked Shuri. I would have been like, okay, yeah, because there is some precedent in the comics. She posed as Black Panther several times in the comic books, so I wouldn't have had a problem overall if she took that mantle, especially being the sister of T'Challa. So yeah, that was the biggest thing, is I'm just worried that it's too much and that they're relying too much on people's nostalgia for the old 20th Century Fox X-Men universe as well as the old MCU to put butts in seats. Now, my second biggest problem is, why is Steve Rogers not in costume? Why are Marvel and Disney as a whole suddenly afraid of costumes? They keep putting the characters in just regular outfits or some sort of weird ninja outfit instead of giving them costumes. And look, if you don't want to do the huge high hues colors that made the characters popular, at least have some sort of version of it. Even with US Agent's outfit, it at least is accurate, but they really toned down the whites of it. So yes, he does have a black costume that's kind of reminiscent of Captain America's, but he has like these really cool white stripes. I don't know why they didn't do that. His costume just looks so bland, and the same goes for Bucky's. Look, I know his, again, in the comics is dark, but it was so bland in the Thunderbolts. Same with Ghost. If you're going to make Ghost a superhero, and by the way, she's not in the comics, Ghost is a very terrifying villain. I wish they had kept him that way because Ghost is a dude. This was another gender swap. But I do think that they should at least do the colorful costumes, and they should do the same for Elena, especially if going forward she's going to be the Black Widow replacement. And they need to also have Steve Rogers, played by Chris Evans, as Captain America. He needs to come back as Captain America. And I'm not saying if they want to keep doing the DEI casting of Anthony Mackie taking on the mantle of Captain America, even though that was handled so poorly, if they want to keep that going, they ought to still just have Rogers in costume. Disney needs to stop being afraid of costumes. General audiences don't care if the characters are in costume, but you know who does? Comic book fans, people who really gave Disney and early on Paramount and Universal a lot of goodwill. All that was squandered, right? Over time, all that was squandered. The X-Men universe with flop after flop. And now some of them I don't think are as bad in the X-Men reboot universe as some people say. But New Mutants, it was pretty terrible. It went out with a gasp, and it should have. But again, they were just afraid of the outfits, and they don't need to be. They don't need to be afraid of these outfits, and that goes triple for Captain America. Have him in the costume, have him wear a shield. Captain America has used several variations of his shield throughout time, so they could even do it where they give Sam the one that's more bullet shaped and then give Steve the circle one back. I think that would be an acceptable compromise, and I think it's one that the fans and the general audiences can latch on to. Now, I have heard rumors, and I'm certainly not the first to report on this, other YouTubers have as well, but I have heard that the new CEO of Disney, his name escapes me for this video, and I don't actually care that much. I'm just happy Bob Iger is gone. He has told the Russo brothers that Doomsday does not need to make money. Now the Russo brothers are directing it, and they helped write the new script, as did Robert Downey Jr., who's returning as Dr. Doom, right? He helped take over writing the script. Apparently, the new Disney CEO goes to them, to the Russo brothers specifically, and says this movie does not need to make money. That's why we're willing to pay Robert Downey Jr.'s ridiculously large salary and yours as well, because we just want it to win the fans back. That's all we want. We just want to win them back. We want to put butts back in seats. So they're releasing Spider-Man, Brand New Day, ahead, because Spider-Man films, even though people want to complain about the MCU ones, they still do well. There's never been a Spider-Man movie that's been a box office bomb. That even eclipses Batman. Batman and Robin was a box office bomb, but Spider-Man has never had one. And so they're going to release Spider-Man ahead of Doomsday, because it was originally supposed to come out in between Doomsday and Secret Wars, but they decided to push back Doomsday and Secret Wars and then move up Spider-Man and also include the Punisher, Hulk, characters who aren't going to be in Doomsday and Secret Wars, at least played by the actors in the Spider-Man film. They're hoping that Spider-Man will give enough of a draw that it'll bring people back to Avengers Doomsday on opening night, word of mouth will spread, and people will come back. So even if it doesn't make a huge profit, it'll at least break even and people go, okay, now I'm ready for Secret Wars. But my two concerns about the movie still stand. I'm worried there are too many characters and they're relying too much on nostalgia to put butts in seats at the theaters, and Steve Rogers needs to be in costume. And we can talk about the political ideology. I've certainly been a critic of it, but I don't think the Russo brothers are going to do that. Even films that I have seen of theirs made outside of the Marvel sphere, even ones like Electric State, which was not a very good movie, by the way, it avoided sort of those political entanglements. It avoided that. Now they just have to deal with the hand that's given to them that was made by Disney, and hopefully they'll right the ship and they'll get it right, and that we can all go back to enjoying the MCU once again. But what do you think? Are you excited to see it? Are you going to go see it when it comes out in December? I know I am. I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to give it a try, and we'll see where it goes. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you liked that video, be sure to give it a like, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment and tell what you think, and don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, check out my community section, because in the community section, I have links to my Substack, and that is the best way to support me. You can subscribe at different tiers that unlock different perks. One of the perks is you get to choose the topic of the Substack, and one of them here on the vidcast. Now, limitations apply on what it can be, but I think that's a pretty good deal. Another way to support me is to pick up one or all four of my novels. I've got links all over the place, but you can find them all on Amazon.com. I hope you buy them all. Leave me a 5-star review. It really helps out small indie creators like myself. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on StudioJake. And Avengers Assemble.
'Cause I've been living life